Hey, what's up you fucking nerds? Sean from the Nerd Lair here. Thanks for tuning into this video where today in the Nerd Lair, it's my birthday! Yay! I'm 31 years old and with my old age, my memory's getting a little fuzzy. So with that being said, I'm going to bring you guys 5 prequels, sequels, and spin-offs that you probably forgot about on the Nintendo DS. And I know there's going to be that one person in the comments who's like, oh, how could you forget these? They're so common. I would never forget these. You're fucking dumb.
No.
No, that's all I have to say. Let's get the list started with
Children of Mana. Children of Mana was released in 2006 and it's the 6th game in the Mana series, following 2003's Sword of Mana, and it's the first entry in the World of Mana sub-series. The game takes place in a typical Mana fantasy universe. Children of Mana follows the story of 4 young heroes as they combat an invasion of monsters and learn about the cataclysmic event that killed their families. As someone who's a huge fan of the Mana franchise, I feel like this game in particular gets overlooked a lot because it looks like Sword of Mana because it came right after that, and Secret of Mana, so I feel like people get confused thinking one game is the other, or they just completely forget about it altogether. But unlike the previous games in the series, which were more typically action role-playing games, Children of Mana is actually a dungeon crawler, and the majority of the gameplay takes place in selected locations rather than an open-world map. The primary goal of each dungeon was to clear out all the monsters. Every dungeon was divided into randomly generated floors, and to progress through each floor, the player must find an item called the Gleam Drop, then carry it to the Pillar of Light called the Gleam Well. You would have to repeat this process on each floor of the dungeon until you reach the final floor, which is where the boss is. And just like most dungeon crawlers, if you die or leave the dungeon, you have to start from the very beginning. Do you remember Children of Mana? Let me know down in the comments section. Up next is Lunar Dragon Song. Lunar Dragon Song was released in North America by Ubisoft on September 27, 2005, and at the time of its release it was the first original Lunar series game that was released in the last decade. It was also the first traditional role-playing game available for the Nintendo DS. It took advantage of several new features such as combat taking place across 2 screens and the use of the system's built-in microphone to issue commands. The game takes place 1,000 years before the events of the first Lunar game, Lunar the Silver Star. It centers around a young delivery boy who must save the world from a rising menace of the Vile Tribe, a powerful race of magicians who wish to gain control of the goddess Althena and take over the world. Unlike the previous games before it, this game was largely panned by critics. This game received negative reviews due to a number of gameplay additions often seen as tedious or debilitating, like not being able to target specific enemies during combat, as well as the decision to not include series mainstays such as voice acting and full-motion anime cutscenes. Oh yeah, there was one more thing that I remember everyone hating. The fact that when you run, it depletes your HP. Who the fuck thought that was a great idea? And it doesn't help that the walk speed is extremely slow, so you constantly have to decide if you want to lose HP in order to get somewhere a little bit faster. Lunar Dragon Song is definitely the black sheep of this franchise, and that's the main reason why people forget about this game. They don't want to remember. Final Fantasy XII Revenant Wings. Final Fantasy XII Revenant Wings was released in 2006 for the Nintendo DS, and it was a sequel to the PlayStation 2 game of the same name. It was a real-time strategy game that had elements that were reminiscent of the turn-based combat system from Final Fantasy Tactics. The entire game can be played using only the Nintendo DS stylus. Battles are initiated when the player begins a mission or chooses to fight a melee battle in a particular area. The story for this game takes place a year after the events of Final Fantasy XII on the PlayStation 2. The protagonist Vaughn is a sky pirate possessing his own airship. He's joined on his quest by his friend and navigator Penelo, along with other returning characters from the original title, and along with some new characters as well. Their treasure hunting adventure takes them to the floating continent of Lumarez, and on the ground below is where the story begins. At the time, seeing a sequel for a Final Fantasy game that didn't really sell all that well was pretty cool, and it happened to be a good sequel. If you can find a copy of this game, I definitely recommend picking it up if you're a Final Fantasy XII fan. Valkyrie Profile Covenant of the Plume. Released worldwide in 2009, the game was the third entry in the Valkyrie Profile series, as a prequel to the original game on the PlayStation 1. In a world based around Norse mythology, Covenant of the Plume follows Wilfrid, a young man embittered against the Valkyrie Lenneth, after she takes his father's life in battle, indirectly destroying his family. Becoming a mercenary and dying himself, Wilfrid is revived by the goddess Hel and resumes his quest for revenge. The game seemed to do well in North America and Japan, but it was also praised for having a very mature story with amazing writing. I just really didn't remember a lot of people talking about this game when it came out, and I imagine a lot of people didn't really know what Valkyrie Profile was. And on top of that, this game didn't really bring anything new to the table. It was a standard turn-based role-playing strategy game. There was no gimmick to this game like a lot of the DS games that were out at the time. It didn't really draw anyone in other than the fact that it was, a prequel to a really good RPG. And that's why I feel that this game might have gotten swept under the rug, and not a lot of people remember that it was a thing. And last but not least on this list, Suikoden Tia Cruz. Tia Cruz being German for Zodiac. The game is set in a world with several diverse nations and tribes and inhabited by a range of creatures. Created as a spin-off of the main series of the games, Suikoden Tia Cruz was made to explore one of the myriad worlds that exist in the Suikoden metaverse. Following the main game's theme of the infinite possibility of future, players must assume the role of a young protagonist who gathers the combined forces of 108 heroes to attempt to defeat the powerful entity known as the One King, the Order of the One True Way, who seeks to control the world by spreading his doctrine that all fate is predetermined and that all people have no control over their own lives. If you have yet to play Suikoden game, I highly recommend you change that at once. These games really are a lot different than your normal RPG. Maybe not this one in particular, but the rest of the games in the franchise are very unique, they're also very rare, and if you can find them for cheap, definitely pick them up.
And that's going to be it for this video, you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Do you remember any of these? If you've played any of them, let me know which one is your favorite down in the comments section. And, since it's my birthday, if you could leave a like and maybe subscribe to the channel, hit that bell icon. Really helps me out. That would mean the world to me. Maybe just say happy birthday in the comments section. Yeah, that's all you gotta do. It's that easy. I'm 31 for fuck's sake. Anyway, I'll catch you guys next time in the Nerd Lair. Stay nostalgic.